you look up to the mountains, and it's like they cause you to look up your eyes to the heavens, and you know why God put those mountains here, and He gave us a wondrous place. And these people, we don't want to leave this place. It's so deeply rooted in our heritage. We don't want to go anywhere. I wouldn't leave any place there wasn't a mountain, but I specifically want to stay in the mountain I know, the hollow I've always known.
Go to the most peaceful, beautiful place in the world that you could imagine, and just let yourself feel like that you've spent your life there. And then watch somebody drop a bomb on it. That's basically what's happened right here.
They're going the way we expected. We're not being, they're not paying attention to us, but they can't hardly ignore us.
What are the key things you think, if they did get something out of it, what would be the key things you would want them to get out of it?
I want them to get out the fact that we're being destroyed in our homes and they're making their money off of it, if that's okay with them.
When you look at our industry and what we have accomplished here for the world, in terms of establishing technology, I mean truly Star Wars technology in the sense of extracting mineral out of the ground that the good Lord put in these mountains for us to take advantage of. Now yeah, looking back from 2000 and looking back, there's a lot of things you could have done differently. But we got to be smart enough in 2000 to look forward and make sure that we don't make the same mistake, and to make sure we capitalize on all the economic activity that surrounds the extraction of coal. Because right now we're making helping to make more than half the electricity in this country.
And I would like to say that the poorest people in the poorest state in the richest country live in the coal fields of West Virginia. And people have to understand that we are the poorest people in the poorest state in the richest nation. We watch millions and millions of dollars worth of coal drive down the road by our homes every day. And that's our coal. That belongs to us, the people. And it should be mined responsibly for the people of West Virginia and for our children.
But when you go to these mines and you see people that are college graduates that are working at the face running remote control equipment that truly, I mean, you've got cutting heads on machinery that have computers in them, and nobody in this world is extracting coal like we are in West Virginia.
Sad the day when I saw the steam shovels a-coming, the clank of their wheels as they clattered along. Deep in my heart, a voice seemed to be saying, goodbye, my sweet home.
No reason for anybody to allow this senseless killing going on our river. The destroying of our mountains and leaving us with the ruins is gone. It is dead wrong. You cannot continue to kill our children, kill our community, kill our heritage. I have 3 generations of heritage in our mountains there. In the same holler they're getting ready to destroy now.
But typically, the last 10, 12 years, the favor has been to the southern West Virginia coals, the coals that are found in eastern Kentucky and southwestern Virginia, because of the sulfur content, because of the ash content. So a variety of physical characteristics that cause it to be attractive.
Over the past 20 years, mountaintop removal mining has blasted away hundreds of mountain peaks in search of thin seams of coal. Rugged Appalachian mountains that were once a comforting home have become barren and alien landscapes. Over 244 plant and animal species are affected as mature hardwood forests are destroyed.
Everything around is done permitted to strip, and once it's permitted, it can't be turned back. Once they get permits, they're going to destroy it.
How do you think it affects people psychologically or emotionally?
Well, myself, it bothers me. In the area up the holler here from where I live, the Black Castle mining, AT Manson, Elkhorn, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. My grandpa used to take me in them woods when I was a kid, 6, 7 years old. Me and my brother-in-law, he'd tell us different places to go to root. Mm-hmm. And you know, that's aggravating when you sit and think about my grandpa, he knowed every inch of these woods. He's almost 94 years old now. If he could just go and see what they've done to the mountains, it's terrible.
The coal industry continues to advocate for mountaintop removal, although it is opposed by the majority of West Virginia citizens. And Appalachia coal is mined in 2 ways. Underground mining, digging tunnels and rooms inside mountains to remove coal, and surface mining, blasting away land to reach seams of coal near the surface. The most aggressive type of surface mining is mountaintop removal mining. Mountaintop removal requires blasting off the entire top of a mountain to expose seams of coal. When bedrock is disrupted, it expands in volume, producing thousands of tons of blasted material that must be disposed of. The coal industry puts this waste in valleys between mountains, creating valley fills that cover headwater streams. In West Virginia, underground mining represents 64% of all mining. Surface mining represents 36% of all mining. Mountaintop removal mining skyrocketed in popularity in the 1990s, and by 1997 accounted for 2/3 of all surface mine permits.
Every time they'd put off a blast, it'd vibrate our house real bad, and just big clouds of dust would come down on us, and I mean it would just make the whole community just a big cloud of dust, and most of all this dust, this was a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour-a-day thing, 365 days a year. There was just no relief from it until the job shut down.
About 400 yards away, I'm standing across the valley over on the Marfork Strip. When they put off a shot, I can feel the concussion in my chest, the visceral concussion. You know, they got guys that they literally think you have to set off an H-bomb or something up there to bust that rock up. You know, they want to shoot it up in the bug dust, and you just can't do it. You know, not without some sort of ramifications, and the damn community is what's suffering.
Anyway, for a long time now, we have records and dates from when it started. They've been blasting and been shaking our home. We've had to replace our windows. Our foundation has some cracks in the blocks. They came and took pictures, but it was after the fact. They got around to us after they'd been blasting for a while. And there was some structural damage inside, which they, you know, took pictures and said it already existed. But actually, we believe that it was because of the shaking and rumbling of our house.
This type of mine complex or setting where you have one mountaintop mine beside another mountaintop mine, 3 of them in plain view from here. If you live down in the hollow, you simply can't see it. You can't see up over the canopy of trees that you can now see from this vantage point, that people can't see what's going on right up above them until these mines move into close proximity and the blasting starts damaging their homes or their wells. A lot of people don't even know that mines of this scale are going on around.
We was sitting there watching TV one evening, and right after a shot, the glass just fell out on the ground. It busted it off. And I called up for all sales and complained about it. And they just politely told me, well, I want to do something about it, get a lawyer. I ain't got that kind of money and just can't afford to, you know, you can't afford to fight people like that and you ain't got the money.
And then I spent some time talking to some of the people in the community. And they began telling me about the blasting, what it does to their home, what it does to their nerves, what it does to their community. Then they began talking about the dust after the blasting, what the dust does to their homes, and we met with people whose children had, you know, asthma, what it had done to them, and how many times they had complained to the state officials, how many times they had complained to the coal officials. They talked about the long wall sites and also when the blasts would come and how long they'd be without water.
And they kept blasting, and this is the one that they sunk. It goes down 100 and some feet. They cracked the water base on it, and the water went down. The well run for 20 years at ground level. Water stayed in at almost ground level. So we called DEP. They asked us if we had a pre-blast survey. We had all our ducks in the pond. We had all that stuff done before, prior to this sinking. So then we called the mine office, and this guy says McHale says he's not in business to do wells. He's in a stripping business. And then from that we went to the State Department, and they made them put us a well in. But they said they put it on good neighbor behavior. That was their policy. It wasn't that we forced them to fix it, but they good neighbor policy.
And there are a whole lot of people up and down this holler that's got damages. A lot of them ain't going to say nothing about it because some of them work for Massey. The ones that work for Massey ain't going to say nothing about it because they know they won't have a job to work no more if they do. So basically, Massey runs the place.
Between 1992 and 1998, Arch Coal, a leading coal corporation, purchased half of the homes in Blair, West Virginia, after citizens complained repeatedly about dust and blasting problems from nearby surface mines. The local school was closed, and many of these newly purchased homes mysteriously burned to the ground in the middle of the night.
I intend to hold on to the end. I want to stay here because this is my home. This is where I was born and raised, and this is, like I say, it's my home. And it breaks my heart to see it destroyed the way that Arch Coal has done things. The company, like I say, they just wanted everybody out of here so that they could mine this coal in here the way that they wanted to without, I guess they just wanted everybody out of here to where they could do what they wanted to do. And there was just a few people left, you know, that kept after the DEP there, that tried to make them go by the law.
We had issues, obviously, always have issues. In coal mining, you're always going to have issues, you know, and, you know, blasting issues, dust issues, AMD issues, this, whatever. You always will, always have, always probably will. You know, the idea is you issue good permits and you're out there. If there's problems, you're getting them dealt with. And but there were some issues with large-scale mining to do with blasting and bothering people and dust and stuff like that.
That's my house there. It's 5 years old, and every room in it's cracked in the corners from the shots. We'll sweep that up and take it down and show it to Mr. Eli.
Scrub it for us.
I wouldn't scrub it. But we need to make a daggone state tell them to come and scrub it. Man ought to go down there and sharpest coal with a damn ball bat on them people.
Shut up now. Don't you talk my game.
Well,
Well,
that's what's going to come to.
And they took videotapes virtually every day, every night. They documented very clearly what was going on. And at that point, DEP couldn't ignore them. And they started issuing sort of slap on the wrist citations to the company. But until there was that videotape documentation, DEP was basically the inspectors would arrive hours later and say, well, I don't see anything going on right now. So it was self-help to the extent that people really tried to protect their homes, and they tried to get the government to enforce the law. And it didn't work. The system didn't work for them.
Can't even see Miss Mullins' house. Wait there, Johnny. I can't even see you on the porch.
that ain't hurting us one bit.
I'm going to take this film over there and show them right now.
A situation where people had no choice. If they wanted to get anything out of their houses and leave that untenable situation, they had to go to the coal company. And the coal company had the money budgeted, but they never told the people that. They had their target acquisition map that identified the properties they wanted to purchase, but they didn't tell the homeowners. They waited until homeowners came begging them to buy them out, and they bought them out at the price that the company set, which in my view wasn't a fair market value price. And more than that, they banned them from living in the area for the rest of their lives. They had to sign what the company termed an option to purchase agreement that made the homeowners promise never to buy property in 11 communities or 11 watersheds from the crest of Blair Mountain to the Boone County line for the rest of their lives. Places where many of those families had lived for a century. And basically, these people had no choice. They either closed the door in their house and left, or they crawled to the coal company and took what the coal company was willing to give them.
In July 1998, citizens from Blair, West Virginia, and the West Virginia Highlands Conservancy sued the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection in a landmark case known as Bragg versus Robertson. The lawsuit charged that thousands of acres of mountaintop removal mines had been permitted in violation of federal environmental laws.
I believe the judge will go in our favor because of the devastation that it is doing to our mountains in the future.
The case would once again place West Virginia citizens in conflict with the coal industry, a dominant economic force in Appalachia for over 100 years.
High on the mountain, the wind blowing free, thinking about the days that used to be. Standing all alone, wondering where the years of my life had flown.
In the early part of the century, many farmers, immigrants, and laborers worked in harsh and dangerous conditions in underground coal mines in West Virginia. Miners, organized by John L. Lewis and Mother Jones, won difficult and bloody battles for fair working hours, the right to be paid in U.S. dollars, not company scrip, and the right to collective bargaining. By the 1950s, oil and gas threatened to make coal obsolete.
20 tons of coal a minute ride this conveyor to the crushers. Finally, pulverized to the consistency of talcum powder, the coal is mixed with air and blown into the furnace through 16 burners, giving a whirling movement to the flames.
But the coal industry found its niche in the electricity market, supplying cheap, reliable fuel to coal-burning power plants that provide electricity to millions of people across the nation. These power plants have come under harsh critical review for producing dangerous air pollutants. In the 50s and 60s, the industry began reducing its workforce as the market became more competitive and new machinery replaced coal miners. When mines closed in poor and isolated towns, communities would fall into abject poverty. Federal programs like the War on Poverty were created to address these problems.
This Christmas, many of them in this holler, in that other holler, and you're number one. And, well, Christmas won't be no more today, because they've got nothing to look for. They've got no way of getting it. Their daddies and mothers got no way of getting it. And since then, they have been teached that they can't have these things. They've been disappointed so many times. It'd just be a dark night, something like tonight for them.
In the 70s, surface or strip mining gained popularity as a cost-effective alternative to underground mining.
I was concerned in seeing the strip mining, the contour mining in those days, where they just went through and dumped the overburden down over the mountains and destroyed the timber below, and sedimentation was unbelievable. And
this was in the 60s?
That was in the 60s.
I'm not an educated man. Don't know how to speak much. But I'm here to state the facts of what's happening in Raleigh County of West Virginia. I've been had by the strippers. I have 65 acres of land. This land is almost washed away.
During the process of mining and cleaning coal, liquefied waste is created. This waste is disposed of in impoundments, or slurry ponds held in place by man-made dams. In 1972, disaster struck Buffalo Creek, West Virginia, when two poorly constructed dams owned by Pittston Coal collapsed, unleashing a wall of coal waste onto local communities. In minutes, 126 people were dead, 1,100 were injured, and over 4,000 were left homeless.
We were carrying the old people, the children were running, people were screaming, people were yelling, and behind us was this coal black water rising inch by inch and foot by foot right behind us as we're running up this hill. I remember the first body I found was sitting out in front of the school as I came off the hill, April White. April White was a classmate of mine. The reason why I knew April so well, because we went to the same grade school. We were now at Marion Junior High in 7th grade together, but we were square dance partners from Amherstwell Elementary. We were square dance partners for a couple years, our 5th and 6th grades. That's what we did, and so I helped carry her body. That's the first one I found, and the mud was caked in her mouth, under all these. You couldn't tell who these people were until their faces were washed, or until you wiped their face a little bit, because that coal black soot had covered their whole bodies. Some of them, their clothes had been ripped off. Some of them were just stuck in mud banks, and some of them were partially decapitated or dismembered in some way or another. So that was what we saw. I was 12 years old, and the other men and women in the community.
Although federal laws appeared to have been broken, no indictments were returned against Pittston Coal. The disaster fueled the demand for more accountable politicians and stricter regulations for the coal industry.
There's a new spirit of determination abroad in West Virginia now that is demanding that public officials, administrative officials, assume the responsibility which is theirs under the law and protect human lives rather than corporate profits.
Because there was a lot of controversy during that period, the late 60s and of course up into 77 when they actually changed the law.
It's been a long and lonely struggle for lots of us folks in West Virginia.
Well, I'm very proud of it.
In 1977, Congress passed the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act, and President Jimmy Carter signed it into law. The Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act provided a set of rules to protect citizens and communities from strip mining damages and pollution. The act stated that mining companies must get detailed mining permits from the government, protect water quality, conduct studies regarding the environmental impact of strip mines, and restore mined land so that they provide equal or better uses for communities.
I'm not completely satisfied with the legislation. I would prefer to have a stricter strip mining bill. I'm concerned with some of the features that had to be watered down during this session to get it passed, but I think that this provides us a basis on which we can make improvements in the bill in years to come.
The Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act allowed for mountaintop removal mining only if the coal companies rebuilt the flattened mountaintop to within 50 feet of its original height or submitted plans for future economic development.
Equipment, as the equipment's gotten larger for surface mines, the equivalent for underground mine has been what's called longwalling, and there you can get the coal out more efficiently, and that's dropped the costs of underground mining as well. It's also not, your question isn't quite right, because there are cases where underground mines can produce coal more cheaply than surface mines, although your generalization is correct that by and large surface mining is cheaper. In the Powder River Basin, which is a western coal mining area, and that has the biggest equipment I've ever seen, everything is being pushed to the limit in terms of how big you can make equipment. My understanding is the trucks are limited by the ability of a railroad car to haul a tire, or the ability to get a tire under a trestle. So the whole game has been to move to larger and larger equipment, and you can do more of that with surface than with underground mining. But I expect there will be more technology developments in both areas.
In the 1980s, the coal industry brought large-scale surface mining techniques from lower population states like Wyoming to the steep slopes of central Appalachia, areas settled by generations of families and communities. In 1998, a scientific study conducted by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service announced that over 900 miles of headwater streams had been covered by valley fills in West Virginia and Kentucky. The Environmental Protection Agency under the Clinton administration agreed that no one in the state or federal government was adequately studying large mountaintop removal sites and valley fills. The world's oldest mountain range was being permanently blasted apart on a grand scale with no efforts to predict the effect on waterways, ecosystems, or mountain cultures. Citizens and environmental groups turned to lawsuits like Bragg versus Robertson to pressure regulatory bodies to enforce federal laws created to protect citizens and the environment. In Bragg versus Robertson, citizens demanded that environmental regulatory bodies stop allowing the coal industry to cover streams with mine waste. They argued that mine waste was pollution and therefore illegal.
Bottom line is, you got more dirt after you dug your hole than you had before. And that excess spoil has to be put somewhere. And what they do is, in West Virginia, is they put it in between two hills in the valley. And the way they build it is called a valley fill. So it's basically a soil disposal or spoil disposal area between to mountains. It's in a valley.
Ridiculous to think of these things as engineering, miracles. I mean, anybody can look at the slopes on the face of these valley fills and say, hey, that valley in southern West Virginia got deeply incised by natural erosional forces. Gee, I wonder if that artificially made fill right there is going to be able to withstand those same forces. I think that's a no-brainer. Obviously, these people are not working on the same geological timescale that I'm thinking about.
In Bragg versus Robertson, citizens also charged that no new development was being planned on mountaintop removal sites as required by the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act. In 1998, the Charleston Gazette reported that 75% of active mountaintop removal mines were left flat, with no plans for economic development. The majority of the sites were left as large pastures of foreign grasses.
We got the DEP to fly us to about, I suppose we were over 6 or 7 different, maybe 8 or 10 different counties. Southern West Virginia wound up in Somerville and going through Beckley to Somerville. And it was like a big checkerboard down below, and the mountains were decapitated and filled. And we sat down on 5 or 6 different sites that were supposedly reclaimed. And they looked from a distance green, but when you got there and walked in them, even the fescue in Lespedeza is pretty thin. And the sites that were actively being mined were just, I mean, engineering-wise, it's a fantastic feat. Those engineers, no wonder they're proud of what they're doing. It's probably bigger than the Panama Canal construction, which I've seen 600 and 800 foot elevations decapitated. It's a hard pan, and what they typically do is just track it in with these big dozers to make it hard pan, but it's mostly level. You don't have much acreage on the sides of hills. Most of your acreage is in the level. So they compact that, and then they hydroseed it with lime, and the fescue and Lespedeza, and mulch, and it comes back green. But the things that they're doing wrong is that trees need to have a pH, an acidity, a slightly acid soil of between 5 to 6.5 pH. 7 is neutral. And in order to grow these grasses, they throw the lime on there to make it more than neutral, 7 plus, and it makes grass grow, but it precludes trees ever growing there. They just don't grow in those soil conditions.
I'm for the environment as much as anyone could be, but we can have the environment without turning off the electricity or throwing miners out of work. This has become a very difficult issue. We have 4 federal agencies involved. Each one of them goes in a different direction. We have a lawsuit filed by environmental extremists.
And then in Underwood's situation, when I started making some ways about the mountaintop removal and the effect it had on forest, it was, he didn't reappoint me for about a year. And finally he did reappoint me because I had a lot of friends, I reckon, in the wood industry that supported me.
But ultimately you had to resign because...
I didn't have to resign.
But I mean, you personally...
I resigned because I wanted to make a point of my being against mountaintop removal. I tried to fix the system within, I couldn't. So, and I could afford to resign as well, but I mainly wanted to do it to make a statement that I didn't feel this was the state's best interest.
So, you know, you've had all this, that's what I say. Today, looking back, in the year 2000, we could look back and say, man, if we'd have only done, if we'd have planted more trees, we'd have been okay. Well, there's not any erosion to speak of. The vegetation's there. There's not as many trees because that's something you can run back here and say, oh, they didn't do that. Oh, naughty, naughty. Well, there's the reason we didn't do it. That's, the system was such. I'm not blaming anybody. It was easier to plant grass. And we're in the coal mining business, and we're in the reclamation business, and we were having great success with vegetation. I'm talking about grasses and shrubs.
But grasses and shrubs are a poor substitute for the rich hardwood forests of West Virginia. The Appalachian deciduous forest is the second most biodiverse ecosystem in the world. Only the tropical rainforest has more plant and animal species. Many major East Coast rivers have headwaters in West Virginia, and tourism is one of the state's fastest growing industries.
The southeastern United States is the second most diverse region in the world. We have more tree species, more salamander species than anywhere in the world. Fish species, macroinvertebrates, other insects, and plants. This is one of the world's most diverse regions. And certainly in many of these little nooks and crannies and hollows up in the head of these West Virginia watersheds, there are species up there that have yet to be described to science.
I have been a moonshiner ever since that I've been born. So I've drunk up all of my money and stealed up all of my corn.
West Virginia's long and rich cultural heritage is based in traditions that are heavily influenced by its remote natural habitats and mountains.
I'm going back Cumberland Gap, see my granny, my grandpa. Poor pilgrim of sorrow.
I think that the association, the main association between the people and their connection with the land here is not only the familiarity of it, it's the heritage and the culture. They're determined to pass these traditions on to their children and to their grandchildren. And without the mountains, these traditions they're gone. I mean, the traditions of going in the spring and collecting mushrooms, and going in the spring and collecting the ramps, and then you've got your ginseng and yellow root, and a lot of herbal cures come out of our mountains. And you know, if this is destroyed, then we don't have it to pass on. You know, my children may never know the things that I know about the wilderness. And it truly, it's devastating, because it's changing an entire culture of people. It's destroying a heritage that could very well be passed down for generations.
My mother, when we lived on Cook's Mountain, we'd walk to my grandmother's, and it was like 2 miles through a holler. And so she started ginsenging through the holler, and she said, I'm going to start ginsenging. Y'all want to start ginsenging with me? We told her, yeah. So she started ginsenging. She'd show it to us, and we'd carry leaves through the hills for hours on hours trying to find it ourselves. And finally, we learned how to do it. And then we've been doing it ever since. When I dig it and then I dry it, I usually take it and sell it and lay my grandkids and my daughter's Christmas presents away. And so that helps a lot.
In October 1999, after settling most of the charges for Bragg versus Robertson, federal judge Charles Hayden shocked the coal industry and made national news by declaring that valley fill material was pollution and that thousands of acres of mountaintop had been mined in violation of the law. He also ordered the EPA to perform a large environmental impact statement that would study the effect of mountaintop removal coal mining on the environment, communities, and economy in West Virginia.
The coal industry fears layoffs by the hundreds. Business blames the recent federal ruling. Good evening, everyone. I'm Bill Robertson. Kelly Crawford is on assignment tonight. We are talking about more than 600 possible layoffs at Arch Coal Mines in Logan and Boone County.
And this was a really drastic decision for southern West Virginia, particularly for somebody like Hayden, who'd everybody seen as a Republican and a conservative Republican at that.
Republican Governor Cecil Underwood, a former coal executive, declared a state of economic emergency after the ruling and froze the state's spending, leading some to accuse him of creating a false economic crisis.
When extremists set out to destroy an entire industry and in its path destroy the lives of tens of thousands of workers in the great state of West Virginia.
That's right! A lot of creative signs out there. I don't see my favorite one, the acronym for EPA, in production in America.
I'm not trying to do waste jobs. I never have been. I'm just trying to stop this destruction right here.
Larry Gibson's family has lived on this mountain for 200 years. He says Governor Underwood's predictions of economic disaster are creating a dangerous situation.
I'm hoping that it works itself out without any violence, but I'm not real comfortable that it's going to happen that way.
Are you scared?
I'm uneasy. I mean, you'd be a fool if you wouldn't be.
On October 29th, 9 days after declaring valley fill material covering streams to be illegal, Judge Hayden suspended his ruling, allowing mountaintop removal to continue while the state filed an appeal.
The majestic mountains. That's it. They are full of majesty. That's why I came back. I came back for the peace, the quiet, and the beauty. To see stuff walking around that you don't see unless you go to a zoo, you know? That's why I came back. And that's why we tried to retire here, but God, it looks like we're either going to get washed out or killed, one of the two.
Yeah, what is your greatest fear for what's going to happen here?
Floodwater. I'm more afraid of floodwater than anything.
There was still enough force in the waters of White Oak Creek to sweep away a four-wheeler and damage roadways. Overnight, it had enough power to kill. 34-year-old Susan Shea and her 15-year-old neighbor James Stover were swept into White Oak Creek at Arty, 34 miles southeast of Charleston. Shea's mother said she was returning home from church when she disappeared into the powerful water here. The bodies were recovered a few miles away. Floodwaters damaged homes, bridges, and roadways in Raleigh County.
Oh, it was terrible. Just like a cloud burst or a dam burst or water raised 5 or 6 foot in just a few minutes' time.
Some residents on White Oak Hollow blame strip mining and logging in part for the flooding.
We've lost 2 lives here. I think the lawmakers ought to check into this stuff, and I think they ought to do more about the stripping, how it's cared for, and all this timber that's going on here.
But state environmental officials say a helicopter check showed no water impoundments had failed or any environmental violation.
Joe and Judy Barnett, who witnessed the 2 deaths in the 1997 floods, believe a large mountaintop surface mine above the community at the head of White Oak Hollow was partly to blame.
We do realize there was a lot of water happened that day. You know, it came fast.
But it's happened over the years before. There'd been a lot of water in this holler, and it never ever flooded like that. And we tend to believe that the strip job at the head of the holler played a big part in it. But naturally, the coal companies, you know, don't accept that.
In July 2001, southern West Virginia was hit by its worst flooding in 60 years. Floods destroyed 1,500 homes, damaged 3,500 homes, and destroyed 192 roads and over 300 bridges. The flooding cost the state $180 million to recover. Artie, West Virginia was hit again, but fortunately no lives were lost. Still, Joe Barnett questioned how large mountaintop mines affected flooding. Citizens point to landscape changes, including valley fills, sediment ponds, and drainage ditches as possible causes for flooding. They fear that rock and dirt in valley fills above their communities cause runoff that overwhelms sediment ponds, causing them to fill and break. Drainage systems built to manage runoff are sometimes poorly maintained and can become blocked and eroded, leading to failure. After the floods, Coal River Mountain Watch in Whitesville organized public meetings where citizens could tell the State Department of Environmental Protection their concerns about surface mine runoff and sediment pond overflow.
That's my blood and sediments and ponds. Whoever gives us stupid permits, they don't live here. No, they don't. They don't live there. They don't live here. They're not going to have to pay anybody if it happens, are they? One of his permits don't live in this area.
DEP official Matthew Crum confirmed that runoff from some mine sites had caused property damage. 10 mine sites were cited for flood-related violations relating to sediment ponds, drainage ditches, and spillways. In August 2001, Julia Bonds of Coal River Mountain Watch informed Artie residents that another large surface mine site was planned for yet another mountain in their community.
In classifieds, you go back to the classifieds, in the small, very small print, you'll find a permit. There's none in the paper today, I see. And the one from White Oak Artie I found in the Beckley paper, I cut it out and copied it and enlarged it. This is an enlarged version of this permit.
The citizens of Artie called an informal conference with the DEP on August 18th to say no to the new project.
I know you're right. They're probably going to rubber stamp this permit, but the problem is we got to try. We can't sit down and keep our mouths shut and let this go on. That makes us the same as the person that's doing the evil deed.
You know, I got legitimate complaints. I've even got one more than that. I always did say that the strip caused a quick runoff. And I still believe it. You know, unless you can prove to me that it don't. And I'll say, yeah, you're right. You can't prove to me that it don't cause a faster runoff. We've had 3 major floods in the last 4 years. My God, it's really serious problem.
Many citizens spoke out against the project. In fact, not one person at the hearing spoke in favor of it.
I had the occasion to go up a few weeks ago and to look at the flooding. And you can see the trails of gunk coming off of these sites. And you gentlemen, it will be tough, but I beg you, please do the right thing. Please speak out.
The White Oak Horse Creek surface mine permit was granted later that year. In Washington, D.C., the Bush administration continued preparation of the environmental impact statement on mountaintop removal ordered by Judge Hayden. In a controversial move, Deputy Secretary of the Interior, J. Stephen Griles, recommended that the environmental impact statement be used instead to streamline the coal mine permit process.
The heart of an environmental impact statement is its analysis of alternatives to a proposed action. And what the Bush administration did was change the whole definition of alternatives. It took away alternatives that would reduce the damage and substituted alternatives that were purely procedural and just changed who was the decision maker. And this generated vehement objections within the agency. We got internal memos, including this one from a Fish and Wildlife Service scientist. The conclusion of the Fish and Wildlife Service scientist was that, quote, the alternatives and actions as currently written belie 4 years of work and the accumulated evidence of environmental harm and would substitute permit process tinkering for meaningful and measurable change.
Because when they started in this area, when they started in Sylvester, they knew that they were going towards Madison. And they was going to take it all. And if they would have submitted a plan to strip 10,000 acres to sage, that place probably would have went crazy. But they do it in little parcels, 800, 500, 150, 200 acres. And states let them get away with it. And both Democrat and Republican. And it's not one party, it's both of them. Money gets them all.
So I want to ask them, what is West Virginia going to do? We're not going to have any mountains. We're not going to have any clean streams. We're not going to have any wood. We could have timbering. We could have furniture stores. We could have tourism. We could build cabins with our streams. We could have water, sell bottled water, which is a hot commodity right now everywhere. When they get finished, we're not going to have any of that. And when the coal's gone, we're not going to have that either. I want to ask them then, how cheap was that coal? How cheap was our state? Better yet, how cheap are our politicians? They're not very smart. Everybody knows you don't use up everything you have, destroy everything you have, and then what are you going to live on?
The supply and demand of land is so messed up in southern West Virginia that very non-economic land that's freely held that can be moved goes for an incredibly high price. Most of the land is owned or controlled by coal companies or out-of-state land companies or even some in-state land companies, and they have an incentive to hold on to the land because they're going to timber it this year, and they're going to timber it in 30 more years, and they're going to timber it in 50 more years, and they may mine it 20 years from now, and they may put some oil development on it, and if you got people on it or development on it, you can't use it. So the incentives are wrong because the land company can sit on it. The carrying costs are so low, the tax structure in West Virginia is so low that they're incented to just sit on it and wait for the trees to grow back.
The tonnage of coal mined in West Virginia has increased in the last 100 years, but the number of mining jobs has decreased from 120,000 miners to around 16,000 today. 10,000 of those miners work underground and only 6,000 in surface mines. With coal producing 55% of the nation's electricity, and West Virginia being the second largest producer, it would seem that West Virginia's economy would be booming. Yet in coal-producing counties, schools and businesses are closing, and West Virginia remains one of the poorest states in the nation.
We're very grounded here. Our communities are, everybody knows everyone. I can turn my kids loose in the community, and if they get into something, I'll have my neighbors calling me, I'll guarantee it. And that's what makes it home, is the fact that you can, the fact that the people here are, you can trust them around your children. You know where your children's at, you know who they're with, and you've known their families from years back. So to pick me up and set me in another community, I'd just be completely out of place. And because what makes it home here is the people. It's not necessarily just the place.
In the spring of 2002, Maria experienced heavy flooding. She learned that a surface mine was in progress behind her home and that a valley fill had been constructed at the head of her hollow.
The rocks, some of them are as big as houses, some of them as small as pebbles, fill this valley fill. And the water, the rain that falls onto this mountaintop removal site is nothing but runoff. There's nothing there to catch it, so it moves very fast through these rocks. And the force of the water and the amount of the water that's coming off this mountaintop removal site has devastated our property. I have lost approximately 5 acres of property has washed away. And the fact that they permitted this stream to be a toxic spillway is just, it infuriates me, because this stream runs within 90 feet of my well, of my drinking water.
If you keep your pH up by treating that, then that keeps you from having metals in your downstream water. They're treated continuously. The green color's from sulfate, and sulfate is exchanged for hydroxide, and so it's liberated, so you get a lot of sulfate, and that gives you the green color. There might be some algae in some of these also that would enhance that green color. These sites will be treated in perpetuity. I mean, that's something else that people don't realize, and the coal industry tries to sweep under the cover of the carpet, is that these valley fills, a lot of these are perpetual treatment sites. We're going to have to treat this water forever.
The changes that the Bush administration is making in these laws to try to accommodate more valley fills and more mountaintop removal mining are changes in national laws that have effects elsewhere in the country. The change in the Clean Water Act rule to allow waste to be dumped in waters, which reversed a policy that had been in place since the 1970s. In order to accommodate mountaintop removal, has changed that rule nationwide. And already we've seen in Alaska one gold mining company proposing to dump millions of cubic yards of contaminated tailings waste in a lake outside of Juneau, Alaska, using the same change in law that the Bush administration made for mountaintop removal.
In your opinion, what do you think mountaintop removal's done in this area?
They're destroying everything.
Yeah, you know they're destroying it.
Yeah, they're destroying everything, yeah.
How do they destroy it? What happens?
By stripping and taking the tops off of it. And then what they don't take off, it destroys
It
all
washes
this
right
down
down
here.
in
All
here.
they
Look at
put
the creek
over,
gravel
it
right
flows
here.
down the mountain.
You kill the mountains, you're killing the people.
Creek gravel flooded this whole bottom out.
Appalachia is a region of extreme poverty and oppression in the midst of great wealth. Those who misunderstand and misrepresent our culture consider us expendable people. We are the invisible minority, the unwanted children of America. Some people call Appalachians ignorant hillbillies, but we understand that our children cannot drink or breathe money. So who really is the ignorant one?
In April 2003, Julia Bonds won the largest award for individual environmental work in the country. Julia won the prize for her work on mountaintop removal, stream pollution from mines, and the monitoring of large coal slurry impoundments. In October 2003, the Charleston Gazette reported that nearly 470 square miles of land in West Virginia was currently disturbed by surface mining, an area roughly the size of Boone County, West Virginia. In 2004, Julia, Maria, and other activists won yet another lawsuit filed in West Virginia. Federal Judge Goodwin stated that mine waste could not be placed in streams. With Judge Hayden's earlier rulings, this would be the third time a federal judge outlawed valley fills that cover streams. In August 2004, the coal industry and citizen activists once again made national news. A bulldozer operator working on a mountaintop mine at night without a proper permit dislodged a half-ton boulder that killed 3-year-old Jeremy Davidson. Jeremy was crushed in his bed while the family was sleeping.
It was a shock that the little boy got killed, but as far as the rock falling, it really wasn't a shock. The way they're blasting up here, and that wasn't the first rock that had fallen. If safety precautions had been taken when the first rock fell up here, that little boy might still be alive right now.
Up here, I didn't know these other people were having the problems that we were. They use the same excuse everywhere they go. Even the inspectors tell us, well, it won't be long, they'll be going around the curve. Well, then they went around the curve and left this part right here. They started right up there building that road, and that little young man was killed. And if I had spoke up that day and put it more strong, if I'd done something at that time, maybe it could have prevented something to that little child. Because you can't continue to shake these mountains that's been mined and not expect something to happen back.
I noticed people leaving. And I tried to look them in the eyes and show them what's happening in their own communities, and they turned their heads. Don't let them do it. Don't get in their faces and say, look what you're doing to us. So today is the first day of the rest of our children's and grandchildren's lives.
The death of Jeremy Davidson led activists and community groups to vow multi-state organizing to increase awareness of surface mine violations and damages. Activists began preparing direct actions against coal operators to stop mountaintop mining.
and the trees all broken and splintered and being bulldozed off the side of the mountain and stuff. And the more I looked at this, the more it just broke my heart. And I realized that, you know, that Appalachia is a seed bed, and that during the last ice age it helped to reseed the rest of, you know, the rest of our continent. And now, and you know, if there's future big global shifts such as global warming, scientists have said that Appalachia is going to play a major role in whether or not we do survive. So instead of protecting this seed bed, we're blowing it up. The Pentagon report, I read a Pentagon report that said the next big wars are not going to be fought over oil or coal, but over water. So what are we doing? We're blowing up the headwaters.
Got the sheriff's department on the way. They're going to be taking some people to jail. We'll load every damn one of you, okay?
Currently, 1,200 miles of streams in Appalachia have been covered by valley fills. If the current rate of surface mining continues, in 10 years, 2,200 square miles of Appalachian mountains, an area the size of the state of Delaware, will be permanently blasted apart.
Really, if they would build us factories here, I mean, we could have jobs here, but they don't want to invest that kind of money because they don't really want us here. They want us to pack up and leave, so that they can have our properties and have our homes and just have their way and do what they want. And they also know that if they try to get us to the point that we can make a living here, they know that then we're not going to want to leave, and they want us out of here so they can have their way.
If we don't stop it, it's gonna look like this. The whole state of West Virginia. If we do stop it, there's a chance it'll look something like that.
As I looked at the valleys down below, they were green just as far as I could see. As my memory turned, oh, how my heart did yearn for you and the days that used to be. High on the mountain, oh, wind blowing free, thinking about the days that used to be. High on the mountain, oh, standing all alone, wondering where the years of my life had flown. Oh, I wonder if you ever think of me, or if time has blotted out your memory. As I listen to that breeze whisper gently through the trees, I'll always cherish what you meant to me. High on the mountain, oh, wind blowing free, thinking about the days that used to be. High on the mountain, standing all alone, wondering where the years of my life had flown.